friends, thanks for joining me today. J.R. Dukes at your service. Just hit the magic buttons to make everything work. So we'll make sure everything's doing what it's supposed to be doing, and we'll jump right into it. Hope everybody's having a wonderful weekend before Christmas. Of course, today is Friday, December 20th in the year of our Lord 2024. Christmas week is upon us, so it's a fantastic time of the year to be together, family, friends. I know a lot of us are traveling and going wherever, so welcome to the program. I want to say hello to everyone on X, everyone on Twitch, our friends on Twitch, and of course, everyone on YouTube. Thank you for being here. Thank you for tuning in and joining me. Today, we're going to talk about a few of the top stories going on right now, and specifically, I want to talk about the New York shooter, Mr. Luigi. New information coming to light right now pertaining to him, and I have the actual federal indictment. He has been charged not only in state court, but he has been charged federally, and there he risked the so-called death penalty. So it is a major case for him and his attorneys to be concerned about. And I'm going to talk about why I believe that, for starters, it's clearly piling on. I would say his attorney nailed that pretty spot on. It's definitely a piling on of the charges. In order for him to be put to death under federal law, they're going to have to show that somehow this is a terrorism charge of some sort, and that's going to be difficult, and I'm going to explain why. His actions, to me, do not seem to fit the definition of actual true terrorism. And again, we're going to talk about that soon and shortly. Tonight's show, as always, has an open mic situation. If you'd like to call in, feel free to do so. Just hit the link that is in the chat right now. If you'd like to join by video, feel free to do that. If you click the button and click video to join, just be ready to go live anytime. When I hit the button, you are live. Otherwise, feel free to put any comments in the chat below. I can see all the streams from right here. And of course, I want to welcome everyone again on the X platform. You can always find me right here at Reach, J.R. Dukes on the X platform, all the other platforms, Truth Social, YouTube, and the other platforms that I'm on. It's always at J.R. Dukes. If you haven't done so already, take a moment, introduce yourself, say hello, let us know where you are from. So I appreciate being able to spend a little time with each and every one of you today. Let's start drilling down on what's going on. Now, we have been talking for well over a year now about the fact that President Joe Biden definitely has been experiencing what most people now are just calling a general decline in his health. We have had many different casts, live streams, videos even pertaining to exactly what could Joe Biden be suffering from. Clearly, he's been in decline. And today they had a very important story come out in the Wall Street Journal in which they are finally waking up and talking with allegedly 50 anonymous sources at this point, saying something to the effect of that what we already know, Joe Biden is clearly in decline, and explaining how the government has been running or not running at this particular time. So we're going to take a look at a couple clips here where they're talking about that exact story. It's kind of like we knew this, and it's amazing that the White House is finally talking about it. Todd from Mississippi, thank you for joining. Appreciate you being here along with everyone else. All right, let's go ahead and drill in to today's events, because I want to get over to the New York shooter, the one that assassinated CEO Brian Thompson. I want to talk about his federal indictments. Very interesting, and it looks to me like there's a lot of potential new information.
I had
in
a
there,
front row seat to a lot of this, and
let's listen to this. We'll talk about it.
Was basically told not to believe what I was seeing or hearing. The president misspoke. The president has a cold. But now the dam appears to be breaking. This Wall Street Journal item interviewed 50 people familiar with Biden's operation. And it raises a lot of questions about who was making key decisions. You mentioned the Afghanistan withdrawal. If the president was as diminished as this story makes it sound, that would be a huge problem, and it could explain why.
This is going to be a big story, not just now, but into the next year, because there are so many decisions that have happened just in the last 24 months. No way could this have been arranged by Joe Biden alone, given his current and past medical condition that we can clearly see that he has been suffering from. Even the HUR report, remember the HURR report, in which they were looking to indict him, the special prosecutor, Robert Hur, looking to indict President Biden for mishandling documents. And basically the same way that Jack Smith was trying to do, actually did do with President Donald Trump elect at this point. And it was in that report that he refused to go forward with charges because he said that Joe Biden would present, get this, the current president of the United States would not be able to be put on trial because he would present as a elderly, well-meaning older man that frankly is not currently functioning with all cylinders, at least words to that effect. Pretty amazing to think about. And this is the man still leading the country as the current president of the United States.
Certain decisions were made that turned out to be catastrophic and why no apologies were ever made. To your point, Brian, when the cabinet met all 9 times, which is the least in the last several decades that a president has had their whole cabinet together in an entire term, there was a different item a few months ago where cabinet secretaries were being asked to submit their questions for the president behind closed doors in advance. And they were being told to keep it quick because the way that it worked was they would ask a question that was pre-screened and then the president would have a card with the answer, even in a closed setting. And
how many times have we seen that where President Biden, literally, they were able to zoom the camera real close on the index cards or whatever cards he was holding or his notes and were able to see what was on the card. And he was being reminded of basic information like names of reporters and who to call on that he has called on hundreds of times, but he was not able to remember the names. Now, I have to admit, I'm not that good at names myself. However, President Biden, it wasn't that he forgot a name here and there. He couldn't remember anything unless it was scripted on the note card or on the teleprompter. Kind of amazing when you think about it, right? All right, we're going to switch gears because we have been talking a lot about Fani Willis. And yesterday we talked about Jenna Ellis. This is her on the right-hand side of your screen. Of course, Fani Willis. Sweet. Fani Willis of Fulton County, Georgia. Can't forget her, right? Hey, Sapphire, appreciate you being here. My friend Mark from Sapphire Ridge News. Thank you for being here with us. So, a lot of interesting information floating around about Fani Willis. As we've talked about, that case is dead. It's been dead a long time ago. Sweet Fani Willis and her paramour, Nathan Wade, would not and will not drop this case. This case is dead. It's been dead for a long time, thanks to the great attorney, Ashley Merchant. And if time allows, I have a news article pertaining to Ashley Merchant in which she has responded to this ruling yesterday from the Georgia Court of Appeals effectively. Well, it's not an outright dismissal of the case, but at least Fani Willis, the corrupt Fani Willis with the corrupt Fulton County Prosecution Office, has to be removed off of this case in its entirety. We talked about the fact that unfortunately just Jenna Ellis went ahead and pled guilty to her alleged role in this particular so-called RICO case. And you know what? I got to tell you, the comments online are brutal, absolutely brutal about her. So let's take a peek and let me refresh your memory here. This particular post was back from October 24th, 2023. There's been some time going on between this October 2023 and now, of course. But you probably remember the clip I'm about to show you because this is her. Remember, she was one of Donald Trump's attorneys that was pretty well the public face for Donald Trump as he was dealing with the issues presented in the 2020 presidential election. Well, let's watch this clip and then we'll talk about it because it's clear that she's highly emotional,
for the opportunity.
Set, and she's getting hammered online, ladies and gentlemen. I don't know if it's all completely warranted or not. I mean, she is being torched heavily online. So let's go ahead and listen to this and let's chat
Thank
about
you, Your
it.
Honor, for the opportunity to address the court. As an attorney who is also a Christian, I take my responsibilities as a lawyer very seriously, and I endeavor to be a person of sound moral and ethical character in all of my dealings. In the wake of the 2020 presidential election, I believed that challenging the results on behalf of President Trump should be pursued in a just and legal way. I endeavored to represent my client to the best of my ability. I relied on others, including lawyers with many more years of experience than I, to provide me with true and reliable information, especially since my role involved speaking to the media and to legislators in various states. What I did not do, but should have done, Your Honor, was to make sure that the facts the other lawyers alleged to be true were in fact true. In the frenetic pace of attempting to raise challenges to the election in several states, including Georgia, I failed to do my due diligence. I believe in and I value election integrity. If I knew then what I know now, I would have declined to represent Donald Trump in these post-election challenges. I look back on this whole experience with deep remorse. For those failures of mine, Your Honor, I have taken responsibility already before the Colorado bar who censured me, and I now take responsibility before this court and apologize to the people.
Oh, this is brutal to watch. Absolutely, completely brutal. I'm curious as to what your opinion is. I'm telling you, she is getting hammered online, absolutely pummeled online. And we're going to take a look at a couple of comments here in just a second, but I want to set the stage here. First of all, I get people all the time ask me, how is it that somebody that did not commit a crime, if she didn't commit a crime, how is it that they plead guilty to a crime? I mean, come on, it only makes sense that someone would plead guilty if indeed they committed a crime, right? That's what my channel is all about, is to help you understand that is not the way the world works. I don't think it should work this way, but this is the way it works. And that is, if you plead guilty to the crime and you tell the court that you committed the crime, you have to say, I committed it. Otherwise, the judge will not accept your guilty verdict. It's really that simple. But if you roll the dice and you go ahead and go to the jury and you don't plead guilty to the crime that you have allegedly committed, or at least make some type of negotiation with the prosecutor's office, then unfortunately, ladies and gentlemen, what happens is if you're found guilty at trial, you are going to be punished exponentially. There is a case right now. I can't remember the exact name of the case, but I'll try to look it up for the next time we meet. But get this. This individual was offered, and I'm not making this up, this is true. This individual was offered a plea deal, which would have been like 3 to 4 years incarcerated. This individual went to trial, was found guilty. The judge gave this person 75 years. I'm not kidding you. 75 years. Happens every single day all across America. This is just the system that we have. Now, I understand some kind of penalty if you go forward through trial and then you're found guilty, because the reality is our court system is nowhere big enough to where it can handle the volume, the huge volume of criminal cases before it, and be able to adjudicate all of these cases if it was not the case that the vast majority of the cases were pled out on some level. And that's exactly what she did. So why would people plead out? Because they want to control the outcome of the case. And in this particular so-called RICO case, with this crooked DA Fani Willis and all these shenanigans going on with this particular case, she doesn't care anything about this woman on your screen. She wants Donald Trump. She wants his backside hammered and mounted on a plaque in her office. That's all that it boils down to. And unfortunately, people like Fani Willis, they will run over and destroy whoever they have to get what their goal is. And unfortunately, of course, in the case of Fani Willis, my humble opinion is that she's looking for fame. She's looking for career advancement. She's looking for higher office. She's looking to be the woman that took down and stopped, in her mind, the dreaded disease of Donald Trump. That's what these woke Democrats all believe. They believe the nonsense that they've been spewing for years now. And unfortunately, that's what happened with this young lady right here. And you have to remember this. My understanding is she's got young kids. She's got a husband. She's got a home, just like a normal American family would. If she would have went to trial, been found guilty, she would have automatically lost her law license. Now, my understanding is she has actually lost her law license, that her law license was taken from her, and I believe she's licensed in the state of Colorado. But at any rate, it should not work this way. This is not the way. This is not a just system. As Donald Trump would say, the system is very tough. So she took this plea deal, and basically she served no jail time. And most importantly, she was not found guilty of a crime of what they call moral turpitude. All right, I got it out. Perfect. It's important because if you're found guilty of a crime with moral turpitude, there's a lot of jobs you can't have. Number one, you cannot be an attorney. You will lose your law license automatically. And that is true no matter what type of license that you have from a state or local municipality. Generally, if you're found guilty of that type of crime, and think of moral turpitude effectively as being a crime of just simply being a dishonest and bad person. That's the reason you don't want to be labeled with that. I would kind of say it's like the book, The Scarlet Letter. It's like having that A plastered right on your forehead. Everybody knows you're branded as a bad person. That's kind of what that moral turpitude is all about, at least in my mind. That's the way that I look at it. So she's trying to control the outcome. It's extremely expensive to hire an attorney and keep an attorney working for you and going through the process. And at the time, she had pled guilty. Let's be honest about this. It looked really bleak for Donald Trump. It looked really bleak for the whole situation. I mean, at the time, Donald Trump in the news media, every single news media was saying what a terrible individual Donald Trump is. And they obviously went forward with the prosecution. He was brought in by Fani Willis, arrested. He was arrested. He was arrested twice, one in New York City, and then, of course, here in Fulton County, Georgia. Donald Trump was actually arrested. We all remember the famous mugshot of Donald Trump. So, I mean, it looked really bleak. Everybody was abandoning the Donald Trump ship, and that's what she did. And that's the reason she is being hammered so relentlessly. I mean, this is brutal, and you have to have empathy for her. I realize she did turn her backs on one level on the Donald Trump train, if you will. But I think if I'm just going to be straight with you about this. I think she's being judged too harshly. I wish she would have stood her ground. I wish she was able to do that and stay strong and continue on like most actually of the other defendants did. But I can sympathize and understand why she did what she did. And trust me, she's paying a very high price for this right now. I can't swear to this, but I think she ended up actually losing her law license. And of course, she's probably having a very difficult time obtaining a job, this type of thing. So you can imagine the problem that she's having. Let me check the comments real quick, and we're going to look at the comments for Miss Jenna. Sapphire says yes. And it came out today that Biden cabinet has he's met 9 times in the last 4 years. You know who really is miffed about that? You remember the guy that actually, he had the cojones to go ahead and run against Joe Biden in the Democratic primary. His name's on top of my head here. I just can't pull it out for whatever reasons. Bob something, I'm thinking. But at any rate, what happened with him? The Democrats basically made him a pariah. They wouldn't talk to him. They were like, you're terrible. And he was shunned. He was made an object of severe ridicule, just like poor Jenna here. So he was trying to send the message that we all knew was going on with Joe Biden. But as typical with these woke Democrats, what is their number one thing they have told us repeatedly on many subjects? Don't believe your lying eyes, ladies and gentlemen. That's woke Democrat 101. Sapphire says it's warranted to hammer her. You may be right. No reply. Womp womp. Listen. I get it. When I know something, I tell you this is the way it is. When I'm iffy, I tell you I'm iffy about it. Okay, I really can see this from both sides. Part of me is womp womp. I have to, say it the way I feel it. And she made a bad choice in my estimation. Yet, when you are actually arrested and they drag you into court and you are paying a ton of money to defense attorneys and you have the full state resources coming after you, and at that time the public outcry was you're a bad person and you did a bad thing, and you're worried about not seeing your children again and being able to provide for your family. It is what it is, and that's what she went through, and that's the other side of the coin. I just want to make sure I'm clear about that, right? Sapphire says she turned on Trump, basically called him and his attorneys liars. I get it. I get it. This is one of these things, as I've said repeatedly now, I get it. I mean, I'm interested in what y'all think. I've already told you I'm on the fence on this one. I see it from both sides. I just caution everybody in your heart to understand what goes through someone's mind when they're in a situation like this. This is the reason why when I hire an attorney for myself, now, of course, I'm talking back mainly during my professional career, I don't care that it's a civil matter. I generally try to deal with criminal defense attorneys that also maybe handle contract issues or other issues. Why? Because a lot of times it involves law enforcement or the police. And criminal defense lawyers are generally only people that are used to dealing with some type of law enforcement, FBI, DEA, local law enforcement, because whether they admit it or not, anybody that's not familiar with being in and out of dealings directly with law enforcement, they get scared. They get nervous. They lose their train of thought. They're not as sharp as they should be when they're dealing with those people. And I'm just telling you that is something to keep in mind and to think about, even when you're hiring an attorney for yourself. Julianne, thank you for being here. Ashton Forbes is live also. Okay. I guess that's another channel, I'm thinking. But thanks for being here and joining me, Julianne. Appreciate that. All righty. Let's make sure everybody's got a hello. Oh, Dean Phillips. Thank you, Sapphire. That's right, Dean Phillips. Dean Phillips. I knew it was a name. I just couldn't get the pull out. All right. 19087. Thank you for being here. You stream pretty cool. I love it. And I want to be a friend with a sick idea for your channel. Oh, I think this is a solicitation, but thanks for being here anyways. Why not? Okay, Sapphire, finally, it's warranted because the day after her plea deal, she said no one should vote for Trump because him and everyone around him are liars. Okay, well, I did not know that. I have not taken a deep dive into what she did or did not do. This is just something I've been scratching the surface out today. But if that is the case, then I might change my mind about her and her behavior. But remember, it is the goal, and in this case of DA Fani Willis, to turn people like this. I mean, it really is. And unfortunately, this is what happens too often in our criminal justice system, not just in civil court, but also in criminal court. They want you to say what they want you to say. And it's crooked, it's wrong. But if you're facing a 20-year RICO count and you have a DA like Fani Willis that is letting you know, I'm coming for you, and she takes your mugshot, puts you in chains and handcuffs, it really, really works on your mind. And you know, and I'm just saying, in my opinion, it's one of them things that you know, there but the grace of God go I. Unless you have actually been shackled and chained and drug into Fulton County Courthouse, into their jail system there, it's tough. That's all I'm going to say about that. I'm not going to keep berating that. I think I've made my point on that. And that is that I caution everybody to just have empathy. Not saying you're wrong. Not saying I'm right. I'm just saying we need to think about this. How about this nonsense going over in Germany right now? Isn't this absolutely outrageous? And I'll say what no one else is going to say. And I've said it before in this program. I love everybody, but you get these Muslims that come into a country, thanks to former Prime Minister Merkel. She put in, I think it was 2.2 to 2.5 million Muslims that she just let in the country without any type of screening. The problem is that generally speaking, these groups do not assimilate. These people were not vetted before they were brought into Germany and many other regions of the European Union, all the countries of the European Union. And this is the result that you get. I knew before they even announced who committed this heinous crime today, of course, during Christmas, when else would be the most prime time for someone to carry out a terrorist act like this. This is what they do. They don't care anything about living. To these people, their reward is when they die or they get killed. They think there's 20, 30, 40 virgins waiting on them or whatever that nonsense is that they believe. That's what they believe. They have a culture of death all of us, we want to go to heaven, but we don't want to go today. We have a culture of life, a culture of freedom-loving people that that enjoys the time that God has given us here on earth. And it's something to think about. I mean, it really is. Any other group of people, hey, they'll assimilate, they'll become part of the great melting pot that we have here in America. And listen, before I get hate mail, I want to say for the record, I get it. There may be some Muslims that will assimilate and be a contributing member of a society. But I am telling you, unless you have proof otherwise, the vast majority of them do not. And I will also say this. Where are the Muslims online right now saying that this is ridiculous? This is a crime. This is an individual that needs to be put to death. These type of terrorist incidents should be denounced by all people in the Muslim faith. And I just don't see it. If you've seen it, let me know. I'd be curious to see that. I didn't really come across that as far as 9/11. I haven't seen that in any of these other terrorist attacks. And I definitely haven't seen it in this one. As a Christian myself, I love all people. But at the same time, I'm not stupid. And when you invite people into your country, you better know who you're inviting into your country. I think it's really just that simple. And yes, Julianne, that is the driver in Germany. I found that online, and I wanted to make sure I put that as part of my feed today. You know, I think this guy here may be the Democratic nominee in 2028 for president of the United States. And we know him as Gavin Newsom. I'm sorry, Gavin Newsom. I was repeating Donald Trump's mantra on that. This is just a cute clip I want to share with you real quick. This is Gavin Newsom basically apologizing for getting caught sleeping with his campaign manager's wife.
San Francisco down.
Let's take a quick
for coming here in short notice. Want to make it clear that everything you've heard and read is true. And I am deeply sorry about that. I've hurt someone I care deeply about, Alex Turk, his friends and family. And that is something that I have to live with and something that I am deeply.
Now, I could be wrong, but I believe that he, at this particular time, he was cheating on his first wife. This was just before him and Kimberly Guilfoyle actually started meeting each other, dating, getting married, whatnot. And listen, I get it. We've all sinned and fallen short of the glory of Jesus, right? I get all that. But when it comes to Gavin Newsom, he just is one of these guys who really think he knows it all and that he has all the answers and that he is the perfect example, I guess, to hold up. And it was just kind of interesting to come across a clip like this. So I just had to share that with you. And of course, you know, in Washington, D.C. right now, they have finally passed a bill, I guess you can call it a continuing resolution. I have heard that Donald Trump gave his blessing to it, but they did not raise the debt ceiling that Donald Trump wanted. And I do think they did pass what I would call a cleaner version than what they originally tried. But you know what? You got all these yahoos and all these idiots on here. I don't know, trying to cram everything in the bill that you want. And especially this lady right here that we were just taking a quick look at here. This is actually one of the main Democrats that heads anything to do with financing. Can you believe that? I've seen a lot of different, I don't know what you call it, political cartoon satire showing this woman in a funny light. But these are the kind of people the Democrats rely on. I'm not making that up.
Because President Musk told them, President Musk said, don't do it. Don't do it. Shut the government down. Imagine. What?
She looks like something like out of a Harry Potter movie or some kind of scary movie or something like that. She is one odd looking woman, and she even sounds even odder. Here's that Wall Street Journal expose that we were just talking about, and watch a quick video on it. It says presidents always have gatekeepers. In Biden's case, the walls around him were higher and the controls greater, and aides managed the limitations of the oldest president in American history. Clearly, we knew that President Biden has issues, right? And how about our friend Neil Convuto? Adios, Neil Convuto. I don't know if you guys heard, yesterday was his last broadcast on Fox News. Now, he's been there for quite some time. I have never been a fan of Neil Convuto. I'm just going to tell you straight up. I have always figured that he was truly a rhino. I don't know if he's ever came out as saying I'm a Republican or I'm a Democrat, but clearly, if you listen to the comments and the insults, frankly, that he's made, I just really never thought he was a great fit for the financing section of Fox News. And President Donald Trump had a reaction that I thought was funny. Actually, this was posted on his True Social account. It says, "Good news for America. Neil Cavuto, the lowest ranked anchor on Fox by far, is leaving. Should have happened a long time ago." And of course, Donald Trump tells it just like it is, right? He's not one to mix words, huh? So, but this is him saying goodbye.
The final segment. But today I also wanted to let you know this is my final show. I am leaving Fox. I've been planning this day for some time. This just seemed like a good time. Now, some of you might be thinking, well, Neil, it is about time. After all, I've been doing this for nearly 3 decades here. You know, there are people working with me now who weren't even born when I started at Fox. That's how old I am. But I'm not leaving journalism. I'm just leaving here. But I'm forever grateful to my boss.
Well, Neil, as long as you're leaving, adios. Does anybody differ with me on that? Anybody think that Neil is going to be missed at Fox News? I mean, I have to think hard, but a long time ago, I liked him. I thought his news and his reporting was all right. I don't know exactly when it was, but at some point, he just kind of went off on the left end of things. I remembered clearly that I was like, what? What's he doing on Fox News? And that was years ago. So I guess it's like President Donald Trump elect has been saying, it's a long time in coming. Wish you well. Adios. Goodbye. All right. A couple last things on this budget bill, and then we're going to move on because I want to talk about my buddy Luigi here. All right. So here we go. This is, I always love listening to what Anna Paulina Luna has to say. And she was given a little bit of a feisty attitude on the floor a little while ago at the U.S. House of Representatives. So let's listen to what she has to say. And if I do say so myself, she's not hard to look at, if you know what I mean. She's extremely smart. She's pretty and she's entertaining. So let's listen to her go off right here.
I'm here today because I realize that the plan that's on the table currently to keep our government open, but also the promise from the only president in my lifetime who's ever followed through on all of his campaign promises to the American people. Excuse me, I'm not done talking. Give me the same respect we give you guys.
The House will come to order. My colleagues are reminded.
I love a little feisty action on the House floor, right? Nothing wrong with that. A little fighting going on in the House. Why not? So they're talking again as our last little J.R. Duke's feed segment here, talking about that terrible tragedy that is unfolding right now in Germany. And I'm not sure how to pronounce that city's name, but I guess it's Magdeburg is the name of the German city that was underwent this horrendous attack. But they're showing President Donald Trump elect now. This is the man that's always had the answers. Have you guys known that? He's always been on the right side of pretty well whatever it is, even though he has been laughed at many times. He's been ridiculed, scorned, just hammered any which way you possibly can express it. Let's see what he thinks about the situation in Germany. Let's see what he said in the past, and let's see what if he agrees with what I was just saying a minute ago about some of the Muslims there.
Donald J. Trump is calling for a total and complete shutdown of Muslims entering the United States until our country's representatives can figure out what the hell is going on.
Amen, Mr. President. Right on the money. Remember how he was, he was raised in the press. I mean, they hammered him over these comments. Of course, this is where the racist stuff starts coming out. I mean, if you express anything like I said earlier about the Muslims, you're automatically a racist. And that's just asinine. It's just ridiculous. There's no foundation in which that is built on. I mean, there's just no truth there. Hey, my friend, see, good comment on that, Sapphire. My friend Zach is in the house. Thank you, Zach, for being here. Appreciate it, my friend. Thank you. All right. Well, make sure, as we talked about before, Zach, always, first of all, on the X platform at Reach JR Dukes, I generally always post at least 30 minutes to an hour, if not longer, that I'm about to go live. Also, if your subscription that you subscribe to the channel, if it's not showing up on your phone, what you need to do is click on the subscription, and then there's going to be a choice. It's going to say like none. There's going to have another choice that says something like personalized, and then the next one will say all. Make sure you click the selection of all. That way, anything to do with the channel will come through on your phone. That's my best recommendation for you. Otherwise, you can go ahead and send me a text at the number at the bottom of the screen here. Matter of fact, I'll see if I have it right here, and you guys can just hit me up anytime, and feel free to send me a text. And what I will do, because I've done this with other people before at times, feel free to go ahead and send your number to me. I'll save you in a group text, and then whenever I go live, I will go ahead and put that there for you. Let me find the actual phone number here for you. I thought I had an actual outlay of it or a stamp for it. So give me just 1 second, then we're going to move on. Or you can even just simply send it to me at reachjrdukes@gmail. But I thought I had one that just had my phone number smashed on it right here, but apparently it does not. But I thought I did. Oh, well, I do have this. We'll go with this. There you go. 813-714-7988. And American Nana, if you're in the house, you can do that too. I know you use the X platform a lot. If the notifications on the YouTube is not working, like I said, just go ahead, drop me your number. I don't sell your phone to anybody, so don't worry about that. Just send it to me. Say, hey, this is whomever, and put me on the let me know notification thing, and I'll send you a text every time I go live. So if you're so inclined, feel free to make yourself available for that. Also, by the way, if you'd like to support the channel, I know many of you support the channel, and I'm working on a recognition platform that's ongoing that everyone can be shouted out and recognized for supporting the channel. But all the support you give the channel is definitely appreciated. Super chat, stickers, whatever. Like I said, I got many things I'm working on. Definitely appreciate everybody's support that has supported the channel. Thank you all. Let me check our comments one more, then we're going to dive right in to this new indictment. A lot of information on this right here. Zach, I might not have heard the note. Yeah, well, I guess that's possible. If you see the notification on your screen and it says JR Dukes is going live in 30 minutes or JR Dukes is now live, then yes, you probably just did not hear the notification. If it does not say that on there, then you probably don't have that all selection check that I was talking about. So let's see. And Zach says, I've checked your page for incoming videos on 7 p.m. Yeah, in all candor, I think tonight I was running a little bit behind time. I was researching everything from another location earlier, and then when I came in today, I went ahead and I don't think I published anything on X till probably 8 o'clock, if not a little bit after. So no surprise there. But notwithstanding any of that, appreciate everybody being here and appreciate you being here today, Zach, and all my other friends, Julianne, Sapphire. Thank you all for being here. Let's go ahead and let's drill down into these indictments. I want to go ahead and take a look at New York State because I want to make a couple points as to why I think the federal indictment is probably not a good idea. Again, just my opinion, but let's take a look at this here. I'm going to share this entire screen. There we go. Okay. This on your screen right here is the brand new let's see, Supreme Court of New York, County of New York, the people of the state of New York versus Luigi Mangione. Finally, you've learned how to pronounce his name a little bit. This is the actual state paperwork pertaining to the grand jury. It says the grand jury of the County of New York, by this indictment, accuses the defendant of murder in the first degree in violation of penal law, such and such. The defendant in the County of New York on or about December 4th, let me highlight this, on December 4th. We're going to see if there it goes. Yeah, okay. On December 4th, 2024, being more than 18 years old at the time of the commission of this crime with intent to cause the death of another person, caused the death of Brian Thompson, obviously the CEO of United Healthcare, and said person was killed in the furtherance of an act of terrorism. So in New York, they actually charged him with first-degree murder. Now, what I want to comment about is this. In New York, I would think that they would charge him with second-degree murder, but in this particular indictment, this is the first-degree murder indictment. They also charged him, or will charge him soon, with second-degree murder. What they're going to do is give the jury an alternative in case they find it is not a first-degree murder. But most states, it's clearly premeditated and it would be categorized as first-degree murder, but not in New York State. In New York State, generally speaking, to have a first-degree murder indictment, it has to have a very substantial aggravating factor. Generally, it's going to have to involve like multiple deaths or children or terrorism. And that's kind of where they're leaning with this. Most states were familiar with effectively premeditation, and clearly this was premeditated. But I want to let the cat out of the bag right now. The reason I think this terrorism stuff will probably fail in all likelihood is for a very simple reason. And that is, by definition, or I should say, there is a very specific definition of terrorism, and it has to do, obviously, with instilling terror in the community or in the world, frankly, if not the whole country. Well, another aspect of that is generally they kill, intimidate, or at least risk many people. And in this particular defendant's case, this accused, if he is the author of the so-called manifesto that we have read and some of the other writings that we have read pertaining to him on this program, he was very specific. He said, I did not go with a bomb because I did not want to risk, and his word was innocence. So clearly you have an individual that wanted to make sure that the public at large was not harmed. He had an agenda that was specifically focused on an individual, or at least he thought very negatively of a group of individuals. Does that make any sense? I think that's where, if it doesn't pan out for the state or at the feds on the first degree thing, it will probably be more cleanly cut as a second degree. So I'm interested as to what y'all think about that. And let's see, Sapphire, each state defines terror. Yes, very true. Yes, very true. So if y'all have any comment pertaining to what I said, do you think it makes a difference on the fact that he said, if he's the author, I mean, for the purpose of this conversation, we're just going to assume he's the guy, he did it, he's guilty. We're just going to assume that. So I said it, so it's really clear. And of course, the defendant is always considered innocent until proven guilty in a court of law, blah, blah, blah. We got all that out of the way. So this kid said in his manifesto or his other papers that I do not want to use a bomb, even though he thought of using a bomb, because he did not want to risk innocence. Do you guys think that that makes a difference as far as a terrorism claim? I could look up, and maybe later I will look up the exact definition of terrorism under New York law and federal law. I don't think it's going to meet that definition from what I looked at before. But again, the proof will be brought out in court. By the way, we got about 14, 15 people on the X platform. Thank you all for being here. We got our friend on Twitch, and we got about 8, 9 people bouncing back and forth on YouTube. Thank you all so much for being here. It's a pleasure. Thank you. All right. The defendant in the county of New York, December 4th, being more than 18 years old at the time of commission of the crime, with intent to cause the death of another person, caused Brian Thomas. The said person was killed in the furtherance of an act of terrorism involving a violent act and acts dangerous to human life that were there in violation of criminal laws of the state and were intended to intimidate or coerce a civilian population. See, that's where they're going to run across here, the civilian population. He went through pains to make sure the civilian population was not at risk. A little spoiler alert, we're going to quickly jump to the other document. This one here is only 6 pages. We're not going through all 6. The indictment from the feds is very interesting. They actually have pictures and new evidence, if you will, as far as a timeline, some other stuff that's in the indictment. I find it salacious and very interesting. So that's why we're going to drill down into it. And yes, that's what you call a tease. All right, dangerous to life. It says influence the policies of a unit of government by intimidation or coercion. I'm not sure about that. And affect the conduct of a unit of government by murder, assassination, or kidnapping. I don't recall that he was trying to necessarily change any type of government function. I think his mindset was that I hate the government, and not even so much the government. I hate these insurance companies. I hate the way they operate. They're denying care to other people. I don't know. I just don't see it as cut and dry. It might be a it might be something they can prove, but I'm just thinking to myself out loud here. I don't necessarily see it happening like that, but we're going to find out. Second count. Okay, here we go. The second count, and the grand jury by this indictment further accuses the defendant of murder in the second degree. This is what we're talking about, as a crime of terrorism in violation of the penal law. So it goes on, the same boilerplate language. We generally call this boilerplate language. It's always kind of titled the same way, and they use the same words in a lot of this. But the specific count here it is, third count. Okay. Murder in the second degree. So they're trying to make sure the jury has options. It's either murder in the first degree with the terrorism enhancement, or just a second degree murder. And a fourth account, criminal possession of a weapon in the second degree. Obviously, in New York State, it is almost impossible to get a gun and keep a gun for self-defense, which is stunning to me. I cannot really imagine living in a state that does not allow me to defend myself. One thing about my home here in Florida, you definitely don't want to come in this house with the intention to rob, kill, harm, or whatever. It's just not going to end well. And I think it was John Stossel. I love John Stossel and his reporting. He comes out with great reports all the time. And one of his past reports, he actually tried to apply for a gun permit to legally own a firearm in the state of New York, which he was living. I think he still lives there. And he did a complete expose, a complete series of just how it is nearly impossible to get a gun in New York State. You have to basically ask permission. When you ask permission, there's a lot of things you are required to show and prove. And at the end of the day, you have to convince a swamp creature that you have a valid need for that gun. Can you imagine that? Our founding fathers would be rolling over in their grave if they could. You have to convince a bureaucrat, a deep state, whomever, that you're worthy enough to have a gun. It sounds like nonsense, but that's the laws in New York State. Have to convince somebody. Now, of course, if you're very wealthy and you can afford it, I'm sure that it's going to be a lot easier to get a gun permit. And obviously you can always, if you're wealthy enough, hire your own security details. But all of us flunkies who do not have the luxury of hiring our own security teams, we're kind of at the we're in a bad situation if you live in New York State or one of them northern states where they don't allow you to have a gun. Absolutely shocking. Shocking, I tell you, to me. Fifth count, criminal possession of a weapon in the second degree. They're just piling on to make sure that he's convicted, whichever way the jury goes. Count number 6, possession of a weapon in the third degree. Count 7, criminal possession of a weapon in the third degree. That's because he possessed a firearm silencer. There's so many different laws that you can break. And I'm not defending this kid. Remember this. I'm not saying that these charges are improper. I'm just telling you what he's charged with and why they generally do it this way. Count 8, criminal possession of a weapon in the third degree. The defendant possessed a large capacity ammunition feeding device, to wit, a Glock magazine. All of these are separate counts. Similar to the way Donald Trump was charged in New York City under Alvin Bragg's crooked administration, with 34 convictions for felonies, right? Dead misdemeanors that were reincarnated magically. It's like magic into these felonies. And guess why it's 34 counts? Anybody know? Let me tell you. It's 34 counts because Donald Trump wrote 34 checks to reimburse Michael Cohen for the payments to Stormy Daniels. Interesting, ain't it? Same thing here. It's a little bit different, but they're just taking pieces of the events or pieces of the gun and making it a different a different crime. Count 9, criminal possession of a weapon in the 3rd degree. He possessed a large capacity ammunition feeding device, something called a Magpul magazine. 10th count, criminal possession of a weapon, 4th degree. The defendant in, New York, not being licensed as a gunsmith or a dealer in firearms pursuant to the penal law, and knowing that it was a ghost gun. So this is the ghost gun charge. From what I understand, he basically printed this gun. I guess that's about the best way to say it. He printed this gun, aka a ghost gun. They have these 3D printers now. I guess they use some type of plastic material or some type of resin. I'm not sure what it is, but they can literally print parts. I mean, it's a great thing. If you're in the middle of nowhere and you need like a small part or just a small whatever doohickey, I mean, you can print it right there. In this case, this kid printed himself a gun. Interesting, right? 11th count, criminal possession of a forged instrument. And second, I got a picture of this forged instrument. We're talking about the fake license that he had on him. And the feds have a complete copy of it. That's kind of interesting to look at, that we're going to look at right now. So here you go. And signed by our favorite attorney general, Alvin Bragg. Actually, he's a district attorney. So interesting, right? Okay, here we go. I can just slide over to the next. There we go. All right, let's deep dive into the new stuff here. This is great. This is great. All right. Sealed complaint, United States District Court, Southern District of New York, our favorite district in the federal court system. Luigi Nicholas Maggiano. Sealed complaint. Of course, it's no longer sealed, as you can see right here. Let me click that so we can, and it's got the violations right here of the federal law. The County of Offense, New York, Southern District of New York. Here it is here. Gary W. Cobb being duly sworn, blah, blah, blah. Special agent with the FBI. Charges as follows. Count 1, stalking, travel, and interstate commerce. All right, now this is not a very long document, I think, including the signature page. It's 10 pages, but we got some very interesting information, salacious, if you will. So let's go ahead and pour through this and what time we have remaining together. All right, from at least in or about November 24th, 2024, between December 4th, 2024, in the Southern District of New York and elsewhere, Luigiano, the defendant, traveled in interstate commerce with the intent to kill. Now, to have a federal prosecution like they're trying to do at this point, generally there has to be what's called a federal interest. And when you go from one state to another, that's pretty well a lock for the feds. When you cross state lines and it's something to do with a crime, boom, the feds can get you if they want to get you. The feds can literally make a federal case of almost anything and everything if they really want to. I will tell you, to be charged with murder in a federal situation is very rare. There is not a murderer charge per se in the federal court system. However, there are exceptions, as there always are. There are exceptions for terrorism. There's exceptions if you kill a federal agent, and there's exceptions where it's more like against I can't remember off the top of my head, but it has to be the death of somebody federally. All right. So that's kind of where this is going. All right. With the intent to kill, injure, harass, intimidate, place under surveillance with the intent to kill, injure, harass, or intimidate another person in the course of, as a result of travel, engaging in conduct, which would put that person in reasonable fear of death or serious bodily injury. Boom. We're accusing Maggiano of doing just that. Count 2, stalking, another stalking charge. So stalking 1 is travel in interstate commerce. Stalking 2 is use of interstate facilities. So both of them are stalking counts, but there's two different areas of the law, two different titles of Title 18 in which they're charging him under. And again, it's got the same dates, and we're saying Maggiano, the defendant with the intent to kill, placed under surveillance such and such person. And the way it's written out here is he used here's the key part right here, cell phone, interstate wires. Interstate wires being what? A telephone. Interstate wires, interstate highways. That's another federal interest, is you're using the actual interstate highway. And the opposite to that would make it a state situation, would be intrastate, whatever. But again, just pointing out the differences here. And the internet. Interesting how they use the internet to plan and carry out stalking, shooting, and the killing of Brian Thomas in the vicinity of 54th Street and 6th Avenue in Manhattan. The reason I find this interesting is you hear the feds all the time saying, "Oh, we can't regulate none of these companies." Such as Facebook, X, and whatever, these other platforms, because they're private companies. And how many times have I said they use the internet? If the feds really wanted to, they could bring them into federal territory, federal regulation, and boom, you're looking at it in black and white right here. Count 3, murder through the use of a firearm. If the feds want to make a case, the number one thing that always pops in my mind is you use a firearm, they can make it into a federal case, and that's what they did here. On or about December 4th, 2024, the Southern District of New York, Maggiano, in relation to crimes of violence, namely stalking, counts 1 and 2 of this complaint, knowingly used and carried a firearm. And of course, he killed the guy. Count 4. This has to do with another specific violation of the federal firearm statutes. And in this complaint, charged in counts 1 and 2 of the complaint, knowingly used and carried a firearm, and in furtherance of such crimes, possessed a firearm which was brandished and discharged, and which was equipped with a firearm silencer and a firearm muffler. And then this is where the new details start coming in right here. The murder of Brian Thomas. The basis for my knowledge and for the foregoing charges are in part as follows. I am special agent with the FBI, and I am assigned to the FBI's Violent Crimes Task Force. I have been personally involved with the investigation of this matter. This affidavit is based upon my conversations with other law enforcement officers, my examination of the documents obtained through a court-authorized search warrant, my review of the documents prepared by others, security camera video. So they got a lot of evidence, folks, lots of evidence. Security camera video, and my involvement with this investigation, because this affidavit is being submitted for the limited purposes of establishing probable cause. It does not include all the facts. So they're really going to get a snapshot. They have statements, conversations with other people, and they're only going to put a little bit of what they have in here, but it's a lot. Based on my participation in this investigation, my conversations with other law enforcement officers, my review of the documents prepared by others, and my review of security camera video, I have learned, among other things, the following. And we're going to start getting into pictures. We get to play show and tell. On December 4th, 2024, approximately 6:45 a.m., Brian Thomas, the victim, Brian Thompson, the victim, and CEO of a nationwide health insurance company, Company 1A, was shot and killed by a masked assailant, the shooter, while walking west 54th Street towards a hotel in Midtown Manhattan, aka the Midtown Hotel, where a Company 1 investor conference was scheduled to begin at 8:00 a.m. As discussed below, the shooter was later identified to be Luigi Nicholas Maggione. The defendant. Security camera video shows the shooter, who was wearing a gray backpack, and they're going to refer to it as the gray backpack, came from between two parked cars, walked up behind the victim, and shot the victim in the leg and back outside of the Midtown Hotel's entrance on 54th Street. The firearm the shooter used appeared to have been sound suppressing device or a silencer attached to the front of its barrel. A still image from the security camera of the shooting is provided below. So we have seen this picture, right? We've seen this picture. This, of course, is Maggiano right here. And of course, this is right at the time he's about to shoot Brian Thompson in the back of the leg right here. Okay, so we're going to continue on with this here. All right, B, law enforcement personnel who responded to the scene of the shooting recovered, among other items, a spent 9mm shell casing and at least one round of live 9mm ammunition. The words, now here is official confirmation of what's been reported on the press. The words denied, delayed, deposed were written on the side of some of the shell casings. Responding law enforcement personnel also recovered a cell phone in the vicinity of the location where the shooting had occurred. The investigation, based on my participation in this investigation, my conversations with other law enforcement officers, my examination of the documents obtained through a court-authorized search warrant, my review of the documents prepared by others, my review, blah, blah, blah. He's able to track the shooter's movements both before and after the murder. It says from that review, investigators were able to formulate the following timeline. So we're going to get right now into a detailed timeline of the shooter's movements from November 24, 2024, including the date of the murder, December 4th, 2024. Here we go. Okay, on November 24th, 2024, approximately at 10:11 p.m., they're very, very specific and exact in this. It's pretty incredible. They have spent some resources, ladies and gentlemen, putting this together. The shooter arrived in New York City on an intercity bus at the Port Authority bus terminal. So they know when and where he came into Manhattan. The bus originated in Atlanta, Georgia. We've also heard that in the press. The shooter took a taxi to the area around the Midtown Hotel and stayed in the area for approximately 1 hour. So as soon as he got to New York City, he went straight to where that hotel is. And basically, he's going to hang right around there for about an hour. And then he took a taxi to the hostel. We've heard of this hostel many times in the news. Here is a copy of the fake ID that this shooter was using. The shooter registered at the hostel under the name of Mark Rosario and provided a false New Jersey driver's license as a form of identification. A photograph is right here. There you go. Auto driver's license has even got that green star. You see that green star right here? That's supposed to mean that this state is ID compliant. I mean, it looks like a pretty good fake ID as far as a fake ID goes. I don't see a hologram. Actually, I do see a hologram on there. Looks like right here. I don't know if you can see that or not, but it looks like there is a hologram throughout here. Interesting. So this is what I would call a good fake ID. Not that I've seen a lot of fake IDs, but this looks good enough for me. When the shooter was checking into the hostel, the desk clerk asked the shooter to remove his mask, which he did, revealing his face to a security camera as shown below. Remember, this is the photo where he's allegedly flirting with whoever was at the check-in desk there. She asked him to remove the mask to make sure his picture up here looked similar to his face. So, other than this interaction with the desk clerk, the shooter consistently kept his mask on throughout his time in New York, including while inside the hostel. Interesting. On December 4th, 2020, approximately 5:35 a.m., the shooter left the hostel wearing a gray backpack and rode an electric bike down Central Park West to a location near the Midtown Hotel. All right. As shown below, another picture. These are all new pictures being disseminated out. There in the circle is Luigi with the backpack that we have seen numerous times right there. All right. Here is another picture of Luigi on the electric bike crossing apparently at one of the crosswalks right here. That's a pretty good clear picture of him and a good picture of the intersection. It's incredible nowadays, just all the video surveillance and all the ways people have to track you now. They're pretty impressive. At approximately 5:41 a.m., the shooter walked around the area of the Midtown Hotel and at one point purchased items from a nearby coffee shop. The shooter then returned to a bench in the vicinity of the Midtown Hotel. On at least one occasion prior to the murder, the shooter was depicted using a cell phone. Be interesting to see who he called. I would imagine they're going to be able to figure that out at some point. At approximately 6:45 a.m., after waiting near the Midtown Hotel for approximately an hour, the shooter saw and approached the victim, shot the victim multiple times, and then fled on foot to West 55th Street, where the shooter mounted the electric bicycle and rode towards Central Park. After disappearing inside the park for a period of time, the shooter was captured on video again, exiting the park near West 77th Street and Central Park West, riding north on Central Park West. When he emerged from the park, the shooter was no longer carrying the gray backpack as shown below. All right, there he is. We've seen this picture before. This is a much clearer shot of the picture. I haven't seen one this clear. And then, of course, here he is exiting the park. Please note, on his back, there is no backpack on this electric bike that he's riding. At approximately 6:58 a.m., security camera footage captured the shooter riding the electric bicycle near West 85th Street and Columbus Avenue. 2 minutes later, at approximately 7 a.m., man, they really got this nailed down, right? The shooter was captured on video walking West 86th Street and Columbus Avenue without the electric bike. At approximately 7:04 a.m., the shooter entered a taxi that drove him to the George Washington Bridge bus terminal in the vicinity of West 179th Street and Fort Washington in Upper Manhattan. The shooter's face was captured by a camera in the taxi as shown below. Now, a couple comments. I have been to New York, I think twice, and I didn't think I was going to like New York. New York is amazing. Wow, I was very impressed. For some reason, I had this negative image of some type of liberal utopia that I was just going to hate. It was pretty incredible. I mean, I don't want to get in that conversation right now, but I enjoyed it. I have enjoyed each trip I had to New York, but it was clear New York, the New York City area is almost like a, I don't want to call it a fishbowl, but there's only certain ways in and certain ways out. And I'm sure that probably aided in their ability to track this guy. And I have it on good authority, just sources that I know, things I've read. I believe this picture you're looking at is the picture that did this kid in, period, because it's such a clear, up close shot. And I believe this is the photo that the FBI showed to his mother, where she told the FBI that very well could be my son. I think the only reason they did not capture this kid even quicker was two reasons. Number one, they had a lot of tips coming in. I mean, they just did. There was a lot of what they would consider credible tips coming in. And then the second reason they probably couldn't catch this kid as fast as they did, or I should say faster, is because this kid was living like he's homeless. We've talked about on this program, in my opinion, this young man, unfortunately, is suffering probably from some form of schizophrenia. It is very obvious. The fact that he is the age he is, this is the prime age where young men especially have a schizophrenia that manifests itself and shows itself for the first time in their life. And that's clearly what happened. You had this young man that abruptly, even though he had this wealthy, privileged, highly educated background, just all of a sudden, boom, up, disappeared from his family, cut off all the communication, and he started basically living as a loner and became self-radicalized. You know, he just started teaching himself all this stuff that indoctrinated him and just made him go off the deep end. And again, having schizophrenia manifesting itself this time could not help this situation any. And you know, he's living off the grid like a homeless man. It would be difficult to track him down quickly, in my estimation. At approximately 7:30 a.m., the video footage from the George Washington bus terminal captured the shooter entering the facility. No video footage showed the shooter leaving. So this is consistent with most of the reports we've been hearing about in the news. On or about December 6, 2024, law enforcement officers searching Central Park found a gray backpack matching the appearance of the gray backpack worn by the shooter as depicted below. We've seen this backpack. We've seen this photo. I have not seen it this clear, but this is to be his backpack. The arrest and identification of the shooter, based on my participation in this investigation, my conversations, blah, blah, blah. He says on December 9th at 9:14, a worker at a fast food restaurant in Allatoona, Pennsylvania, called the police about a male customer later identified as Luigi. The defendant, the worker believed that he resembled these photos of the shooter that had been broadcast in the media. Members of the Allatoona Police Department responded and encountered Mangione. whom they also believe matched the appearance of the shooter. I've seen reports on this, and the police are like, yeah, we knew it was the kid right away. When approached by responding officers and asked for identification, he offered a fake New Jersey ID. That's a crime, by the way, to hand a police officer a fake ID that is supposed to be your identification. And it says that it was used by the shooter. They found in possession a loaded 9mm pistol and silencer consistent with the weapon used to kill the victim, clothing that matched the apparel the shooter wore in the security camera videos, a notebook, several $1,000s in cash, and an envelope associated with FDIC insured bank, and a letter, quote unquote, to the feds. The 9mm pistol and silencer were later tested and found to be operable by a ballistics examiner from the New York City Police Department. Photographs of the firearm and silencer recovered from Maggiano are depicted below. So this is the gun he had with him. This is the gun along with the magazine clip and the silencer. He apparently printed this on some type of 3D printer. It's homemade at a minimum. And they have confirmed that this is indeed the gun that killed CEO Brian Thompson. All right, so here's all the goodies he had with him, along with some unspent ammunition, apparently, right? The notebook contains several handwritten pages that express hostility towards the health insurance industry and wealthy executives in particular. For example, the notebook contained the following statements and entries that appear to correspond to particular dates. In an entry marked 8/15, the notebook described the details are finally coming together. And I'm glad in a way that I have procrastinated because it allowed me to learn more about Company One. The notebook entry also stated that the quote unquote target is insurance because it checks every box. And then in another entry, 1022, the notebook stated 1.5 months. This investor conference is a true windfall. And most important, the message becomes self-evident. Later on in the entry, the notebook describes an intent to whack the CEO of one of the insurance companies at its investor conference. As described above, October 22nd, 2024 was approximately 6 weeks before the date of the murder of the victim, which occurred on the date of Company One's investor conference. The feds later recovered from Maggiano. It stated, I wasn't working with anyone. This was fairly trivial. Some elementary social engineering, basic CAD, a lot of patience. Based on my own research, I believe that CAD refers to computer aided design. I was kind of wondering what CAD meant. I did not kind of pick up on that myself, but I wasn't 100% sure about that. The later, it says the Fed's letter also states, P.S. You can check serial numbers to verify this is all self-funded, my own ATM withdrawals. So this kid did a lot of pre-planning, a lot of thinking about this, obviously. Based on all the above, my review of the photographs of the shooter and my review of the arrest photographs, Nicholas Maggiano, whatever, the defendant, I respectfully submit that he's the shooter who shot and killed the victim on December 4th, 2024. The notebook entries, the Fed letters, the shooter's apparent surveillance of the Midtown Hotel, and the shooter's use of counter surveillance techniques and escape from New York City. There's a movie like that, by the way, a good movie. I think it had Kurt Russell in it. Escape from New York. You have to be a little bit up there in age to probably watch that movie, but it's still a damn good movie. All right, the Escape from New York all suggests that the shooter undertook extensive efforts to identify the victim, place the victim under surveillance, and track the victim's whereabouts in the time period leading up to the murder. Below are surveillance stills of the shooter and an arrest photograph of Maggiano. There we go. On the left, arrest photographs. Unbelievable. And this here, of course, is the shot inside the taxi. It is sworn out, signed, respectfully submitted. Interesting, huh? I find that intriguing, to say the least. And this is just a scratch of the evidence that they have in this particular murder case. So I would say this kid's got some serious problems. Now, fortunately for him, he has a top-notch criminal defense attorney. She's a female. Her husband is the criminal defense attorney for P. Diddy. I don't know if y'all knew that or not. I think we've talked about that a little bit. But she is a former assistant attorney in the prosecutor's office there in New York City for the former administration that predated Alvin Bragg's administration. So the attorney that his family apparently hired for him, she's top notch. I mean, that's the kind of attorney you want if you find yourself in this type of serious, terrible problem, right? All right, turning over to the comments. Let's see. Zach, overkill on the charges for maximum overtime. Yeah, of course. Of course, they want to make an example of this kid. They don't want any copycats. They don't want anybody thinking this guy is doing a good thing. Obviously, there's been a lot of discussion and a lot of people online talking about the fact that they like this kid. They think he's doing a noble and just thing, which of course is absolutely ridiculous. I understand that the insurance companies as a whole, you can have a legitimate discussion as to whether or not the insurance industry itself is corrupt or that they need more regulation or there's something immoral about these people like this Thompson guy. I was reading about this actually, he was making more than $10 million a year. They were looking to increase his pay. Don't quote me on these numbers, but they were so impressed with Thompson, in part, I'd say in large part, he was able to increase the profits of United Healthcare. It wasn't a little bit of money this thing increased. I mean, it went up multiple billions. Don't quote me on this, but something like it went from 8 billion to 15 billion in profit, something nuts. I mean, a lot of money. And of course, the implication here is that this victim, Brian, he was basically denying care to other people through the company, of course, denying care to other people that were insured by United Healthcare. Hey, listen, I can tell you this. If I was a United Healthcare customer, I would not want to deal with United Healthcare. I'm sure you would probably feel the same way. Who wants to be associated with a company where the industry average is apparently 14% denial rate? This company is somewhere like 36% denial rate. Their profits have increased by billions and billions. And listen, I'm a capitalist. I don't deny anybody the opportunity to make a lot of money. And I mean, a lot of money, that's great. I don't have any problem with people becoming wealthy. That's the American way. That's the American dream. Everybody wants to make money and big money. No problem with that. But I understand the sentiment that it borders on something immoral when if there are people indeed that have needed surgeries and needed services to save their lives or protect their health or protect their children or save their children's lives, and you have companies going out there that are saying, no, go ahead and sue me, and then taking the money and put it in their pocket, I would have a serious problem with that too. I'm sure y'all would. It just doesn't sound right. I mean, I don't mind somebody making a bunch of money. I don't mind them making tons of money, but I don't want to see children go without care they need because other people are trying to make money. Something seems terribly wrong with that. But again, that's just my humble opinion right there. Zach also said the feds did not need to file any charges unless New York found. Yeah, that could be another reason too. They're filing charges just in case that something goes wrong with one case. They have the other case. And I know someone may be thinking about it. No, it is not a double jeopardy situation. The federal courts and the state courts are considered, according to the Supreme Court case. There's a very old Supreme Court ruling that said, no, they can definitely do that. It's two different categories of a trial as far as they're concerned. That's the way that they see it. So did he mention the shocking new facts? Well, this was from earlier in the conversation. I hope you got something new out of what I just went over. If nothing else, the pictures were new. I haven't seen those pictures before. They definitely have confirmed the well, I mean, they've had pictures, but in this particular set of facts, they confirmed what time he went in, what time he went out, and they have nailed down exactly what they think he did. I think they did a good job on the timeline right there. So let me see if there's any other questions. See, feds hold. What's Zach saying here? Or Sapphire? Okay, you're just answering Sapphire. Great questions, great comments. The state will get to prosecute after the feds. Yes, the feds are going to go first. That I can agree with Sapphire on 110%. The feds are going for DP, and the feds and state charge to go for, yeah, that's exactly right. The feds are going control and overkill. Sapphire, the truck driver, I hate it. Yeah, let me tell you something. I love New York, but the traffic there is pretty tough. And if you have to get across that city for something, that would be bad. But no, I would encourage anybody that wants to go visit New York City. I think it's a beautiful city. It's a wonderful place to visit, and the way that you can be in one town like a Chinatown, and then you're in Little Italy next door or whatever. It's pretty cool, and the food there is fantastic. So I don't see any reason not to go. The people there are very nice too. I had this thing in my mind somehow that you go to New York City, people are rude around. I don't see anything like that at all. Sapphire says, yeah, and his PA lawyer said there's no evidence connecting him to the crime. Well, we'll see how she feels about that now. Julianne, increased profits via ripping off insured. Yeah, I have a problem with that. I'm a capitalist. I'm a free capitalist, free economy, free business type of guy. But you can't, in certain industries, they may have to have different laws and regulate. And again, I'm not a regulation guy. It almost pains me to say this, but I just can't imagine all these poor people. How about that woman we're following right here in Georgia? She's sitting in jail still right now on a $100,000 bond because she told Blue Cross Blue Shield, deny, defend, depose, or whatever. You people are next. I mean, I don't see how that is a violent terroristic threat. She's facing 15 years for that. I don't think that that's going to hold up, but she's going to be spending some time in jail, unfortunately for her, especially over the Christmas holidays. We'll see how that works out. Yeah, and he said by raising the reject. Yeah, he Brian Thomas clearly, or Thompson was clearly increasing the profits, and as a shareholder in a company, they're interested in one thing. They're interested in maximizing profits. They want a dividend. They want their stock value to increase, and it increases when profits increase. So of course they were ecstatic about that. Yes, talking about the separate and part on the feds and stuff. Julianne, the long-term elderly care for like failing and breaking a hip were denied. Yes, I will say, if there's anything, I hate to say it this way, but if there's anything positive about this whole situation, you just have to know these insurance companies are really thinking about their model, the perception in the public eye. And worse than that for them, I cannot imagine, they may not publicly state this. I'm just guessing here, but some of these regulators have to be thinking about this and planning on taking a harder, more critical look at the insurance company industry as a whole to make sure they're not committing fraud by denying people the necessary and needed health care that they need. Come on, we know the game. The game is, especially with United Healthcare, clearly it's going to be just like that book on deny, defund, depose, whatever. It's that way with anything in a civil context where the model is that we're not going to pay you nothing until you come and sue us. That's why you see all them commercials on TV. You've been hurt, give us a call. One call, that's all, whatever. We see those commercials all over the entire country. And the reason for that is there are companies, I'm not saying United Healthcare is, but it sure looks like they are. There's a lot of companies out there that make a profit by ripping people off. I really can't say it any other way than that. It's unfortunate. That should not be the way it is. You should not have to hire an attorney to get needed health care that you need. By the time the entire thing is adjudicated and it goes to the court process, you might be dead, or whatever problem you have is probably going to be worse. The whole thing just doesn't set right with me, as I'm sure it doesn't set right with most of y'all. So anyway, we're going to land the plane here. I definitely appreciate everybody being with me. It's always a pleasure to take a second, especially on a day like today. I enjoy doing these type of things. I hope everybody's having a good week. This is a great time to be around family, friends. Christmas, the last Christmas weekend before Christmas. Don't worry about all these politics and all this other nonsense. Think of all the blessings that we each have in our lives. And again, I hope everybody is experiencing a lot of joy this Christmas season. And at a minimum, remember the reason for the season is the birth of our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. And that should make everybody have a smile on their face. Always remember to count your blessings, ladies and gentlemen. Count them one by one. And may the Holy Spirit be with each and every one of you until we meet again. I always say, keep that mind free. Never give up, my friends. Until next time, I am J.R. Dukes.